I'm also interested in kind of the community aspect of OSS and what that relationship is like with the consumers of the OSS product. So give us some of the hells and some of the joys. I want to hear kind of both ends of
Yeah.
that.
I mean, I feel like I touched on the joys of it already a bit, where you're like, I can't imagine how people have used this stuff. And it's just wild and really like fulfilling to see. Yeah, I built this thing and it's now being used in the government for some random thing. And it's just awesome. Like I write software because I want to help people. And that is the easiest way to do that. I feel like it's open source, so anybody can use it. And that makes it easy. There's no burden of you have to pay me first and whatever. So that lots of good stuff, just lots of people saying thank you and whatever and contributing back and new ideas and new features that you didn't think of. But then obviously there's lots of little like there's lots of documentation that you've got to write, and then people are not grateful for when something is broken or they're trying to use it for some reason in a way that they don't understand and trying to like shoehorn it in. And people get, you know, they just get to be the way they do. Some people are not grateful, and that can be tough, or just the sheer amount of like volume of requests you'll probably get can be hard to keep up with, and you want to do your best to reply to them and whatever. But honestly, like you'll get PRs that don't really explain the reason behind the changes, and you have to go through and be nice about like, I'm gonna close this because I don't know. You didn't explain. It's a PR with no comments, and it just has a bunch of code changes, and stuff like that. So you have to like do a lot of management stuff on open source projects that you don't otherwise, which I think is really good as an experience, but also like can be just a drag over time. Um, I will say that one of my first projects, I wrote a gem called Simple Calendar on the joys of open source. I wrote Simple Calendar just because I had never written a gem before, and there was like some table generator gem that people use to generate an HTML table that was used as a calendar. And I was like, oh, it'd be nice to just have a gem dedicated to this, and could do a week calendar and a month calendar and whatever. So I wrote this gem, published it on Ruby Gems, and it was like for my own learning, and I open sourced it on GitHub, and just nobody should use it. And then a month or two later, somebody was like, yeah, it doesn't work. And they posted on the GitHub, and I was like, well, of course it doesn't work. Like I never made it. I like never finished it, and I was just using this to learn. But then I was like, oh, you know what? I'll just go see if I can fix that and make it work for them. And then like now, let me look it up. Simple Calendar has a total of 1.6 million downloads
Holy
from
crap.
something that I've never actually used for myself. I just wrote that to learn, and that was it. I've like never used it in an app like seriously for myself. It was just purely like, oh, I'll try to build something and publish it and just see how that works. I've never published a gem. So those things can be fascinating. And it's great to just see it. Like apparently people have found it helpful, and that's cool. So
So with regard to the paid gem, so it sounded like you were scratching your own itch, kind of like you've rebuilt
yes.
payment integrations many times. You said, why don't we just roll this up into a gem? And hey, why don't we just release it as open source? Now, but the arduous journey that you're talking about and all the things you've had to deal with, are you second guessing whether that was a wise course, or are you happy with it? I'm just kind of curious how you feel about
Yes.
it now.
So that one's a special case because it powers a core piece of Jumpstart, which is a Rails template that I sell that has
Right,
payments
right,
and
right.
things built in. So I get to work on that, and it has direct benefit there. So everything I add to pay can be added to Jumpstart, and we get new features there kind of for free, whatever, however you might call that.
Is
But
that like a pay product
it
thing? So that's
is.
kind of how
Yes.
you're doing a
So
monetization potentially of
it
it.
funds a lot of the development, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
But also Stripe has really taken an interest in it as well, and they actually sponsor development on GitHub sponsors. They sponsor me to keep working on pay and stuff. So it's an interesting one that, you know, because I'm taking they have the Ruby SDK and can't probably justify building a Rails integration and a Hanami integration and Sinatra and every framework. They can do the Ruby language and leave it at that. So in effect, they're, you know, able to benefit from me continuing to work on that as well and provide like a pre-built full integration there. So that's been another side benefit there. For projects like Simple Calendar that don't have any real benefits to work on, like I will do them in my free time and do my best, but you know, at some point it's like I would rather not fix things on them sometimes and actually just ask people if they report an issue, give them a direction of like, hey, PRs are welcome. Flag it as something that we want help with. Maybe it's good for a junior and try and, you know, do that, but encourage people to actually contribute. And it's a lot less time for me to go and review code sometimes than write it myself and go fix those things. So I try to, for some of those, just balance it and encourage other people to get involved when I can't necessarily, you know, work on them, or they sometimes just fall by the wayside. And honestly, like a Simple Calendar is probably finished. The core features we want are pretty much done, and you know, calendars are not going to change hopefully anytime soon. And you know, the Rails stuff that we do is all very standard public API, no, you know, things that will break in a major Rails version upgrade or something. Maybe they would, but you know, they're pretty minor if they are at all. So for the most part, I try to get projects like that in a, you know, in a position where they're almost basically done and just minimal maintenance, but like pay will, it depends on third parties. So it'll never be done. It will always break. That's just luckily one that has a sustainability to it because of Jumpstart and Stripe themselves. So that helps a lot.
If you like this clip and want to watch another one, you can click right here. Or if you want to watch the full video, you can click here.